right. You're back at the War Room with Roger Stone. I'm here through the modern technology known as the telephone. And I can't get over, Owen, the hysteria caused by these new revelations that Donald Trump Jr. Corresponded with Julian Assange of WikiLeaks. Therefore, I have to point out there's nothing improper or illegal with contact with Julian Assange. Thousands of journalists talk to him as he talks to other international heads of government outside the country. He is not a Russian agent, and WikiLeaks is not a Russia propaganda organization. I understand the mentality of the deep state. If you repeat a lie enough times, you get a lot of people to believe it, but they have not an iota of evidence. If you look at Comey's testimony before the House Intelligence Committee, he fudges the question expertly about whether Assange is run by the Russians, which is an absurdity. So, contrary to any popular belief that they're pushing, this certainly does not rise to the level of collusion with the Russians because Assange is not a Russian asset. The deep state believes if you say things enough times, everybody will believe it. They're invested in this Russian collusion delusion now. But the fact is, Assange is a journalist. He publishes information given to him by sources, just like they do at the Washington Post and the New York Times. The big difference is WikiLeaks' record for accuracy and authenticity is much better. So neither Donald Trump Jr. or this guy, Alexander Nix of Cambridge Analytica, did anything inappropriate. Having driven the phony Russian collusion narrative to distract from their own Russian profiteering, they now kind of see it all crashing down around their ears. And now they're saying that if you have casual contact with a first-rate muckraking journalist, it's treason. It's an absurdity.
Well, and what's amazing to me about this, Roger, is what we've seen is they're reaching for any and every angle to say, oh, they colluded, oh, they colluded. But what ends up happening when the Washington Post writes a story about how somebody wanted to talk to a Russian lawyer or a Russian this or that or the other thing, or how Don Jr. was sharing messages with Julian Assange on Twitter. Roger, am I missing something? If Donald Trump was colluding with Russia, if Trump and Putin were colluding to the aspect that they're trying to paint this picture, why would Don Jr. be contacting Julian Assange? Why would Don Jr. be reaching out to a Russian lawyer to try to get dirt? Why would any of this be going on if there was real collusion there? Oh, that's right, it wouldn't.
No, I think, well, look, clearly the meeting with the Russian lawyer is a setup. I think we've pretty much established that. But the point here really is, it's really about Assange. I mean, Hillary threatened to kill him with a drone. The Secretary of State John Kerry went to the British before the election and said, look, why don't you just rescind your diplomatic recognition of Ecuador for one day? Let us storm the place and arrest the criminal, and then you can reverse it. And the Brits, to their credit, said, we're not doing that. The same John Kerry went to the nations around Ecuador and said, things are going to be very bad for you if your compadre here makes stupid mistakes with Julian Assange. This is all documented. This is the man who has the secrets. That's why the deep state is so bent on destroying him. He's a valiant journalist from my point of view, and he is living in a miserable cubicle. Don't get the idea that the Ecuadorian embassy in London is opulent. I only know this from having read about it and seen the videos. I've never been there.
Well, just like every other thing that's come forward here, none of these people were Russians until they started supporting Trump. I mean, Julian Assange, another example. He's been doing what he's been doing for years now. It's not been partisan. He's outed Republicans just as he's outed Democrats.
Right, no, the libtards loved him when he was giving George W. Bush the raspberry. But I guess there's a deeper point here, which is at this juncture, there's legislation in the Senate pushed by Mark Warner that declares him a criminal, essentially, or the tool of a foreign power unnamed, and makes contact with him illegal. That's ridiculous. That's a violation of any kind of free press ethic. There's no proven charges against Assange. It's the extent they're willing to go to get this guy tells you how badly he's hurt them by publishing things the people had a right to know.
Now, Roger, I don't know if you've seen Julian Assange tweet today, and I'm sure it's somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but essentially Julian Assange offering up ambassadorship towards the Trump campaign. He said he would open up a hotel-style embassy in D.C. with immunity suites for whistleblowers. Again, I assume this is a bit tongue-in-cheek, but I'm just curious, what are you hearing from, the Trump campaign as far as what they think about Julian Assange?
Well, I think anybody who's involved in that campaign and saw it unfold realized that Assange acquired and published this information, and it had a devastating effect on Hillary's campaign. Hillary would like to argue about where the information came from instead of answering the questions about why she was so corrupt, why she cheated Bernie, why she was lining her pockets, why her people around her were, God knows, involved in goat worship or worse. These New Age freaks. And, of course, then there's the question of her health. She said in a press release, an actual statement from her spokeswoman said that Roger Stone invented the stories about Hillary's ill health, and the conspiracy theorist, muckraker journalist Alex Jones spread them.
But then Donna Brazile admits it.
3 days later, she collapsed in the street, exonerating Stone and Jones, and now, again, Donna Brazile confirms it. So there you go. Once again, InfoWars is out front.
And no apologies coming your way or Alex's way from the Clinton campaign.
Yeah, no, look, I think that it is this effort to kill Assange, to quiet him. It's very interesting to see the president clashing with Pompeo. He brings Bill Benny, the former counterintelligence expert, who pretty much proves that there was no hacking by the Russians at the DNC. In fact, no hackings by anybody. The material was most likely downloaded to thumb drives or some other portable device and taken out the back door by Seth Rich. Taken out the back door. If you read the interview with Seth Rich, with Assange, he could not make it more clear that Rich is his source without saying it. It is artful. They say to him, was Seth Rich your source? He says, sources for WikiLeaks take their lives in their hands when they speak to us, but I can't confirm who's the source. He says it 3 times. And then he posts a $25,000 reward for information that leads to the apprehension of Rich's murders. Could this be more clear?
Well, yeah, and then again, if that wasn't enough, Donna Brazile mentioned Seth Rich, and essentially she was so scared after Seth Rich dying, she didn't even want to be visible in her own home.
And Seth Rich's parents initially are skeptical that he is the victim of a robber. They hire a private detective. Then suddenly out of the blue, they have a new press spokesman whose other client is, the Democratic National Committee, and they're asking people out of privacy and feeling not to discuss this matter. Their privacy is very important. I agree. But the truth is more important. This poor kid died for political reasons.
Yeah, I certainly have no qualms with that statement. That would appear to be the piece of the puzzle that, again, you look at this and you say, what other past first family could answer the question, hey, how many people that you associated with are now dead? Boy, the Clintons would need a week to run down that list. We'll be right back with Roger Stone.
This is Roger Stone, and you're back at the War Room with Owen Schroyer. We are part of the new, expanded, 10-hour broadcasting here at the War Room. If I could get rid of Smokey Robinson there for a second. Actually, I think that's the Four Tops, as I recall. In any event, an extraordinary day for the press, just going this stuff over and over again. Jeff Sessions demonstrates that he's a doddering old fool in his testimony. Very disappointing. I have a piece up I've talked about this now. I just think he's a captive. It is notable that he didn't name or select any of his own deputies or assistant attorney generals. They've given him a brace of deep staters, most of whom have come out of the Bush or the Obama administration. And he has none of his old Senate staffers with him. They've all gone to better jobs in the administration. And I think they mollify him, but nobody really listens to him. But for whatever reason, he's entirely neutralized on any matter of importance. Now, here's the key thing here, Owen. Since Jeff Sessions has recused himself on Uranium One, I think we all agree that we need a special counsel on Uranium One. That special counsel would have to look into Mr. Mueller, Mr. Comey, Mr. Rogers, and as well as Rod Rosenstein. And that's problematic for the exact four guys. Pardon me, Andrew McCabe would be the other one. The exact four guys who are twisting the president's tails are themselves, I think, complicit. But Rosenstein would therefore get the decision over a special counsel, and he's most certainly not going to appoint a special counsel to investigate Rosenstein, which means he must recuse himself, and then the decision goes to the Solicitor General of the United States, who's a respected lawyer. I think this is what we have to make clear. They can't cover this up at the acting attorney general level where he just won't act on it. We have proof that the Russians were bribing the Clintons to get control of uranium. Obama's intelligence agencies picked it up and knew it, and they did nothing. That's the bottom line right there.
Well, and you know that Trump is obviously not dumb. He's not ignorant to all this. He's tweeted about a lot of it. I would assume that Trump knows about all this. What is Trump's angle here? I mean, Trump is the guy who wrote Art of the Deal. Trump is the master brinksman. Trump is the master 6D chess player. How is it that it seems with this deal, he's got no ace in the hole? He's got no queen, just pawns.
Well,
I mean, what is the deal?
I would say this. This is a man whose television show is built around the phrase, "You're fired." His failure to take action in the case of Jeff Sessions, where very, very clearly he's made his unhappiness extremely well known via Twitter, means that someone is telling him that he can't afford to gut Sessions, or that it'll look bad, or that there's some repercussion for him, when in fact it's just the opposite. There's a speeding bullet headed for his presidency. He can only avert it by dismantling those who intend to shoot it. That's Mueller and company. The very guys who are trying to take him down for Russian collusion were, in fact, covering up Russian collusion. I'd call that karma.
And Trump knows this. He's tweeted about it. So at what point do you think Trump looks for new leadership in the DOJ?
Well, here's the question. Sometimes I wonder, and I've known Donald Trump 40 years, whether he understands the extent of his own massive power now to control the narrative, as the left has done every time they've controlled the federal government. I probably should take this opportunity to also point out that since the T-shirts at the Infowars.com store are all 50% off, you can get the iconic Clinton rape T-shirt, the T-shirt that started it all. Before there was Weiner, before there was Weinberg, yes, there was Bill. Harvey Weinberg will not deny that he is considering a shot at the 2020 nomination. His slogan, "Hey, I'm just the same as Bill."
Hey, these were all the same guys that were featured on the cover of GQ magazine, along with Kevin Spacey, Louis C.K., now Colin Kaepernick.
But isn't it ironic that we now know that Weinstein goes out and hires the same nasty, roughneck detective that Bill Clinton used to threaten Bill's victims? I mean, what are the odds of that? There aren't many guys who are...
It's just like the same, Roger, these guys are all peas in the pod. It's just like the same lawyer that Bill Clinton was using, that's been used by all of them, that they're now using with they used to basically launder the funds to pay for the dirty dossier.
Well, it's very interesting. People say that they criticize the president's son-in-law because he's represented in all these organizations, all these investigations by Jamie Gorelick, who was the Clinton's lawyer, close to the Obamas. People say, how dumb? That's not dumb. That's smart. Talk about someone who understands the system. I do think that they just can't keep pushing this narrative. I mean, Adam Schiff is at it again yesterday. It's beating a dead horse. Now, Adam's very upset because he was all geared up for a run for Dianne Feinstein's U.S. Senate seat. And the general consensus among California Democrats was that the old gal was going to go and that Adam was the heir apparent. The last minute, she decided to run again. Adam was very bitter about that. And the problem with it was that the president of the state Senate, a Latino gentleman, decided that he was going to run anyway. And he is now challenging Feinstein in the primary. And therefore, Schiff has been out spreading accusations of a sex scandal in the state assembly that is about to implode. I think that part is correct. So I think we're about to have a massive scandal brought to you by none other than Adam Schiff, the congressman who would be senator.
Pencil neck Adam Schiff. It's just amazing, Roger, that we're still dealing with these people. I'll ask you this question. You've been dealing with this longer than I have, but it's reached a point for me where I'm watching the Senate hearing today featuring Jeff Sessions, and the point of frustration is just really starting to boil over. I would imagine that a lot of Americans are feeling that way. Again, I'm not sitting here saying Jeff Sessions is my hero. He's not. I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't think he's cut for this job.
Something's going wrong. They're keeping his grandchildren in a warehouse someplace at gunpoint.
That's what I'm saying. It's painful, Roger. It's painful and frustrating for me to have to watch this.
He is, however, a body double for Henry Morgan from Lafayette. Probably a bit before your time, but some of the older info warriors will get that.
Yeah, I don't know that one. I just compare Rachel Maddow to Mandark from Dexter's Laboratory.
Yeah, that's pretty close. I think you've got that one.
It's definitely spot on. Final minute here with Roger Stone. Roger, you're going to be in court the next couple days. Do you care to enlighten our audience as to what to expect with these proceedings? Yeah,
I am being harassed in a sore loser lawsuit, which has no merit, no basis of having defamed a guy who ran for public office 10 years ago. It's amazing that this is going to trial with a total lack of evidence, but it's Democratic Manhattan with a Democrat judge and most likely a Democratic jury. Whether the trial will begin this week or be put off till next year is being decided now in motion, so it would be inappropriate to say more, but I mean, the bottom line of it is this is a First Amendment case. I feel very confident that this is, first of all, nobody disparaged this man. I know nothing about his charges, but on the record, when you look at his record and the things he said about underage girls, I think it comes under the Times versus Sullivan. He was running for governor, and stuff that he wrote is actually being quoted. Can you imagine that?
Well, it certainly is going to be interesting, Roger, for you. They continue to want to come after you. And then you're so, see, why can't Jeff Sessions be more like you? You're beleaguered by all this litigation, yet you're about to go after Twitter anyway. So I salute you for that, Roger.
We're going to sue the daylights out of them. Thanks, Owen. Thanks for the war room.
That's right. All right, there goes Roger Stone, folks. We'll be right back.